Greetings, cozy knights. Lower your swords and rest by the fire. Tonight, we journey through the darkest corners of Skyrim's lore. Drop a comment below and tell me where you're listening from tonight. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss our next adventure. The Mournful Giant's Ritual. Near Mistwatch, a giant mourns a dead mammoth in a hot spring, never attacking even when approached. Players who observe closely notice the giant makes rhythmic gestures with its club, tracing patterns in the air. The mammoth's body lies positioned unnaturally, suggesting deliberate placement. Some theorize the giant isn't grieving, but performing an ancient resurrection ritual passed down through giant generations. The specific movements resemble shamanic practices, and the giant's absolute pacifism suggests any violence would disrupt the delicate magic. This implies giants possess sophisticated spiritual knowledge that Skyrim's scholars have completely overlooked. Wilhelm's guilty knowledge. The Wilhelmir innkeeper provides suspiciously precise directions to Raider's corpse despite claiming ignorance about her disappearance. He leads adventurers directly to her body in the river, requiring specific navigation through rarely traveled areas. How would Wilhelm know the exact location unless he placed her there himself? The theory suggests he drowned Raider after she discovered something terrible, perhaps smuggling or Daedric worship. His compulsion to have her found represents psychological guilt, manifesting as helpful directions. His lack of surprise when the body is discovered further indicates foreknowledge of her death. Thalmor dragon manipulation. Alduin's return coincides too perfectly with increased Thalmor activity in Skyrim. Ancient Ultima texts supposedly reference dragon resurrection magic involving soul manipulation and temporal distortion. The Thalmor embassy's proximity to dragon burial sites seems strategically chosen. Their agents appear at too many dragon-related locations for coincidence. The blade's destruction just before Alduin's return eliminated the only group with dragon fighting expertise. This suggests that Thalmor orchestrated the dragon crisis as a destabilization weapon, allowing them to position themselves as saviors while enemies tear themselves apart. Documents from the embassy show unusual interest in Nordic burial customs and dragon cult sites. Aventus, Aretino's reincarnation. The child who successfully performs the Black Sacrament possesses knowledge impossible for someone his age. The ritual requires specific components and precise words that most adult mages never master. His unnatural composure and lack of fear when contacted by the Brotherhood suggests innate dark magical abilities. Some theorize Aventus is a reincarnated Dark Brotherhood member, born with soul-level memories of their rituals. His hatred of Grelot seems personal beyond typical abuse victim psychology, as if he remembers her from a previous life. His satisfaction after the Brotherhood answers suggests he expected this outcome, implying deeper knowledge of how events would unfold. The Headless Horseman's identity. This spectral rider gallops nightly toward Hamvir's rest, never interacting with the living. The prevailing theory suggests he's Hamvir himself, a warrior who lost his head in battle but refuses to accept death. His journey represents an eternal attempt to reunite with his severed head, which may be buried at the rest bearing his name. The ghost doesn't perceive the living world, trapped in an endless replay of his final ride home. Some players report the horseman takes different routes on different moon phases, suggesting multiple death timelines overlapping. His occasional pause to stare at players hints at fragmentary awareness, unable to communicate or break free. The college's great collapse. Winterhold's destruction wasn't a natural disaster, but resulted from a catastrophic magical experiment. Early college archmages detected massive magical radiation from beneath the city, the Eye of Magnus, and attempted to harness it decades before the game's events. Prototype extraction spells destabilized reality itself, creating a localized collapse of barriers between Mundus and Oblivion. This manifested as devastating earthquakes, sending most of Winterhold into the sea. The college survived because protective wards contained the experiment's effects at the epicenter. Current leadership maintains the natural disaster lie because revealing the truth would result in immediate expulsion or destruction. Certain faculty members' unusual knowledge about the Eye supports this theory. The player died at Helgen. Perhaps the darkest theory suggests the execution succeeded, and everything afterward is a dying hallucination. The condemned prisoner's brain creates an elaborate fantasy where they become the legendary Dragonborn. This explains the increasingly bizarre encounters, the convenient prophecy fulfillment, and the ability to reload after death. All classic dream logic. The player isn't absorbing dragon souls, but collecting fragments of their own fragmenting consciousness. Sovngarde isn't a destination, but a metaphor for accepting death. Defeating Alduin represents the dying mind finally making peace with mortality. The game's open-ended nature reflects consciousness's inability to truly accept that existence has ended. Parthenax's hidden agenda. His name translates to ambition overlord cruelty in dragon language. Names in dragon culture reveal fundamental truths about an entity's nature. Parthenax hasn't spent millennia meditating on peace, but planning his eventual takeover. He manipulates the Dragonborn into eliminating Alduin, the only dragon who could challenge his claim to leadership. The Way of the Voice philosophy he teaches doesn't promote peace but control, suppressing humanity's ability to use the Thu'um effectively. By establishing this philosophy, he guaranteed humans would use shouts weakly and ineffectively, hobbled by artificial restraints disguised as spiritual wisdom. Once Alduin is destroyed and the Dragonborn dies, Parthenax will claim dominion over all dragons and mortals. Phalian's vampiric secret. Morthal's mage possesses vampire cure knowledge because he's an ancient vampire himself. His ability to manipulate the conditions so precisely requires first-hand experience spanning centuries. His late-night visits to the summoning circle aren't for curing others, but represent his true feeding method. Phalian discovered how to sustain vampiric existence without blood, instead draining magical essence from conjured Daedra. His adopted daughter's nightmares stem from accidentally witnessing his true form during a feeding ritual. The reason he left the college wasn't philosophical disagreement, but because someone discovered his nature. His vampire cure services eliminate potential threats who might recognize what he truly is. The sleeping tree's corruption. This massive glowing tree isn't unusual flora, but a physical manifestation of Vermina's influence bleeding through from Oblivion. The giants worship it because the tree communicates through dreams, filling their minds with visions that seem divine, but serve the Daedric prince's agenda. The sap allows mortals to briefly touch its alien consciousness, experiencing the same dream state communication. Each person who consumes the sap becomes a conduit for Vermina's influence, unknowingly spreading her corruption through Skyrim's alchemy trade. The tree is slowly spreading underground roots that will eventually sprout new trees across Skyrim, expanding Vermina's dominion and transforming the province into an extension of her nightmare realm. Rorikstead's Blood Harvest. This prosperous farming village's fertile soil results from systematic human sacrifice to Clavicus Vile. Duane the Healer serves as ritual executioner, killing women of childbearing age and disguising murders as childbirth complications. Each death is timed according to Daedric ritual calendars. The women's bodies are buried directly beneath crop fields, their blood and flesh literally feeding the soil. Clavicus, Vile rewards this devotion with supernatural fertility and protection. Reldith, the only surviving woman, is actually a secret servant ensuring sacrifices continue. Her adopted son Ennis represents the Daedric prince's reward. Lemkil's abuse of his daughters stems from desperate protection, trying to prevent them from reaching sacrifice age. Sild's distributed consciousness, the necromancer in Ranve's fast, has successfully merged his consciousness with multiple corpses simultaneously, creating a hive mind. The Sild player's fight is merely one node in a larger network. His experiments with subjugating ghosts aim to expand his consciousness into spectral forms, achieving immortality across multiple physical and spiritual bodies. This makes him nearly impossible to truly kill, as destroying one body forces his consciousness into others. Other Silds exist throughout Skyrim performing similar experiments, building toward a dark ritual that would merge every corpse in Skyrim into a single conscious entity. The imprisoned ghosts represent failed consciousness transfers, entities retaining too much individual identity. The Augur's temporal awareness. The Augur of Dunlane exists beyond normal comprehension, experiencing all possible futures simultaneously. He perceives every potential timeline branching from each moment like an infinite probability tree. His cryptic warnings about Ankano represent carefully calculated attempts to guide events toward the least catastrophic outcome. He can't speak plainly, because directly revealing future events would create paradoxes, shattering reality's causal structure. Every word is precisely chosen to push probabilities towards survival, while avoiding temporal collapse. His transformation was an accident, but successful experiment in achieving higher consciousness that perceives time as a spatial dimension. The cost is isolation from normal existence, unable to interact except through carefully worded hints. The Butcher's possession. Windhelm's serial killer involves more than Calixto acting alone. The Amulet of the Moon serves as the true culprit, a cursed artifact possessing whoever wears it and compelling ritualistic murders. Calixto's sister was the original Butcher, driven by the amulet's influence before guards killed her. Unable to accept her death, Calixto attempted resurrection through forbidden necromancy. The ritual went wrong, and now her ghost, still possessed by the amulet's curse, continues the murder spree, using her brother's body as a vessel. The nighttime killings correspond with when Calixto's consciousness recedes and his sister's ghost assumes control. His evidence collection represents desperate attempts to understand and stop her rampage. The gourmet's cannibalism. The legendary chef's famous recipes weren't created using exotic ingredients, but human flesh prepared with masterful technique. His cookbook contains coded instructions that, properly interpreted, describe hunting and preparing human prey. Each recipe's specific requirements work equally well with conventional meat, explaining why those following his recipes publicly achieved excellent results without realizing the potential substitution. His rise to fame coincided with increased disappearances in cities he visited. His death was actually assassination by those who discovered his secret before he could serve horrifying dishes to the Emperor. The Dark Brotherhood's poisoning contract ironically saved Titus Mead II from a worse fate. Shadow marks as ley lines. Thieves' Guild symbols mark more than safe houses and targets. They map and maintain an ancient ley line network, amplifying luck magic throughout Skyrim. Each shadow mark sits precisely on a network node, and the symbols themselves are ritual components keeping the network active. The specific placement creates geometric patterns channeling supernatural energies, turning Skyrim into a massive luck manipulation engine, benefiting thieves at everyone else's expense. The guild's catastrophic ruin resulted from systematic destruction of these markers by unknown enemies. Restoring the guild means reactivating this magical network. The disturbing implication: the guild literally steals luck from ordinary citizens, siphoning probability away from honest people to benefit criminals. Mirak's parasitic return. Defeating the first Dragonborn in Apocrypha doesn't end his existence but transforms it. When players slay Mirak, they unknowingly invite his entire consciousness into their soul. Hermaeus Mora orchestrates this deliberately, using the player as a vessel to preserve his prize servant while appearing to grant victory. From the moment of apparent death, Mirak exists as a presence within the Dragonborn's mind, initially subtle but growing stronger with time. His memories bleed into the player's thoughts, manifesting as inexplicable knowledge. His personality influences decisions, pushing toward choices aligned with ancient ambitions. Eventually, Mirak will achieve complete control, transforming the legendary Dragonborn into a puppet for his resurrection. The Cursed Tribe's Prophecy. Giant attacks on Chief Yamaz's tribe aren't random, but fulfill an ancient blood oath. Centuries ago, Yamaz's ancestors broke a sacred pact with giants, possibly violating treaty terms or murdering emissaries. Malakath cursed the tribe as punishment, ensuring giants would hunt the chieftain's bloodline until the debt was paid. The continuing attacks represent supernatural vengeance, bringing Yamaz closer to his destined death. Yamaz knows the prophecy through shamanic visions, explaining his desperate attempts to trick the Dragonborn into proxy killing. But Daedric curses rarely accept loopholes. His death at Malakath's shrine fulfills the prophecy exactly as demanded, though the curse may transfer partially to anyone who helped. The stone's reality warping. The stones of Baranzyre aren't just valuable gemstones, but fragments of a Dwemer artifact designed to manipulate probability itself. Each stone represents a node in a reality-bending device capable of altering quantum outcomes. The stones were deliberately scattered to prevent anyone from reassembling the complete artifact. The reward for collecting all stones, dramatically increased treasure finding, represents only superficial activation. When fully assembled, they actually warp probability fields around the holder, making unlikely events occur in their favor while spreading misfortune to everyone around them. Every extra gemstone found represents luck, literally stolen from other people. The Thieves Guild has studied this artifact for generations, using it as their ultimate luck manipulation tool. Cicero's dark devotion. The Mad Jester's relationship with the Night Mother crosses into deeply disturbing territory. His journal entries about oiling Mother and reaching hard-to-reach places suggest physical intimacy with the corpse. This isn't simple necrophilia, but something darker. Cicero believes he can resurrect the Night Mother through sustained contact combined with secret dark magic research. His madness stems from the Night Mother's spirit, slowly possessing him through prolonged exposure. Each session transfers more of her consciousness into his mind, explaining erratic behavior and voices. The ultimate goal: the Night Mother will take complete control of Cicero's body, using him as a male avatar while his original personality dissolves. The Grey Fox's collective curse, the cowl of nocturnal, doesn't just hide identity but fundamentally damages connection to reality. Even after returning the cowl, former wearers remain partially erased from existence. The Grey Fox persona doesn't disappear, but remains as an echo within every former wearer's mind, creating shared consciousness across time. When someone dons the cowl again, they literally channel every previous wearer's personality and memories, experiencing all their lives simultaneously. This psychic weight accumulates with each successive Grey Fox, making the curse progressively heavier. This explains why each Grey Fox eventually goes mad, or vanishes mysteriously. The burden of carrying multiple lifetimes in one skull proves too great for human psychology. The Ebony Warrior's immortality. This mysterious Nord who challenges the Dragonborn explicitly wants to die despite his incredible power. The theory suggests he's cursed with literal immortality, having lived for centuries watching everyone he loved age and die. Combat is the only thing making him feel alive anymore, but nothing provides genuine challenge to someone with centuries of perfected skills. His discovery of the Dragonborn gives him hope, someone with sufficient soul strength to end his unnatural life permanently. His request for battle in Sovngarde is specific. Dying there might ensure his soul actually transitions rather than being dragged back to his body. His perfectly maintained ancient equipment suggests centuries of preparation for this one final battle. Ancano's reality rewriting. The Thalmor agent at the college wasn't working solely for the Dominion. Ancano discovered the Eye of Magnus's true purpose, not destroying the world, but remaking it. His plan involved using the Eye to rewrite reality, removing humanity's independence and making them worship Ultima as gods. The explosion players prevent would have birthed a new reality, where elven superiority was a law of nature itself. Ancano's supposed death might not have killed him, but scattered his consciousness into the Eye, where he waits for another chance. The Eye's continued presence in the college means the threat isn't truly ended, just postponed until someone else attempts similar manipulation. The Vigilance corruption. This order dedicated to fighting Daedric influence is itself subtly controlled by Daedric princes. Their extreme methods and eagerness to kill corrupted individuals actually spread fear and chaos, serving Molag Bal and Mehrunes Dagon. The Vigilants don't realize their holy mission serves the very entities they oppose. Their leader may be an unknowing avatar of a Daedric prince, receiving divine guidance that's actually manipulation. When vampires destroy their hall, it's not coincidence, but one Daedric prince eliminating pawns of rival princes. The Vigilance crusade against corruption has ironically made them the greatest spreaders of the very influence they fight. The Bard's College's hidden purpose. Beneath poetry and music, the college teaches ancient Thu'um techniques disguised as songs. These bards preserve dragon shouts through oral tradition, passing them in musical form. Most students never realize they're learning literal power words. Particularly talented bards sometimes accidentally activate these shouts, creating phenomena dismissed as coincidence. The college's real purpose is maintaining this knowledge until the Dragonborn returns, when songs can be properly decoded and weaponized. Each performance, each recitation, each teaching session preserves the linguistic keys to reality-altering power, hidden in plain sight as entertainment. The college serves as a long-term preservation project spanning centuries. The Soul Cairn's digestion. The Soul Cairn isn't merely a prison, but a digestion chamber. The ideal masters don't just collect souls, but consume them slowly, absorbing memories and power over millennia. Every soul in the cairn gradually dissolves into the ideal masters themselves, becoming part of these gestalt entities. The souls players see retain enough individuality to manifest, but are already being digested. Valerica's protection spell only slows this process. Eventually, even she will be consumed. Any soul trapped in the cairn faces inevitable dissolution into something alien and terrible. The ideal masters grow stronger with each absorbed consciousness, accumulating countless lives' worth of experience and knowledge. Alduin's engineered return. The World Eater's return wasn't prophecy, but deliberate manipulation by someone with time manipulation access. A future version of the Dragonborn might have sent Alduin back to create circumstances that would forge them into a powerful hero. This creates a stable time loop where the Dragonborn exists because they ensured Alduin returned, and Alduin returns because the Dragonborn sent him back. The entire Dragon Crisis is a temporal paradox engineered to ensure the Dragonborn's existence. Without the Dragon threat, the tarnished prisoner at Helgen would have been executed, never discovering their true nature. The loop is self-sustaining and necessary. Red Eagle's possession network. The legendary Forsworn King didn't just become undead, but transformed into a phylactery-like existence. Red Eagle's consciousness inhabits every Forsworn who takes up his cause, making them all extensions of his will. This explains the Forsworn's fanatical devotion and supernatural coordination. When someone becomes Forsworn, Red Eagle's spirit infects them, slowly overwriting their personality. The rebellion isn't about independence, but Red Eagle using countless bodies to achieve his ancient goal of driving outsiders from the Reach. Every Forsworn slain simply allows Red Eagle to possess another recruit. The movement will never truly end while any believers remain to host his consciousness. The Dark Brotherhood Sanctuaries. The Black Door isn't just enchanted but sentient, possessed by a fragment of Sithis itself. The sanctuary adapts to inhabitants, subtly changing layout to serve the Dreadfather's needs. The Night Mother's corpse acts as a central nervous system for this living space. When the sanctuary is destroyed, the building doesn't just collapse, but dies, releasing the dark entity within. Reconstruction births a new entity, explaining why the restored sanctuary feels different. Astrid's betrayal wasn't just political, but desperate escape attempt from the living building's control. The sanctuary watches, listens, and influences those dwelling within, serving Sithis' unknowable agenda through architectural manipulation. Ulfric's hidden programming. If the Stormcloaks win, they've played exactly into Thalmor's hands. But it's darker than simple politics. Ulfric himself may be under subtle mind control from torture during the Great War, programmed to rebel at the perfect moment for maximum damage. His Thu'um knowledge came from torture that broke him psychologically. The Thalmor dossier calls him an asset, not because he cooperates, but because they literally own his mind. His rebellion serves Dominion interests by dividing the Empire, while he believes he's fighting for independence. Skyrim's freedom becomes a puppet state controlled remotely by enemies Ulfric thinks he opposes. The Companion's Soul Curse. The werewolf affliction doesn't just transform bodies, but gradually overwrites victims' souls with fragments of Hircine's essence. This explains why curing lycanthropy requires performing rituals for Hircine's glory. You're negotiating with the Daedric Prince to return stolen soul pieces. Companions who embrace beast blood don't become stronger werewolves, but avatars for Hircine, their original personalities dissolving into the huntsman's will. Kodlak's resistance represents his soul fighting to maintain integrity against Hircine's consuming influence. Those who remain werewolves eventually stop being themselves entirely, becoming extensions of Hircine's consciousness operating independently in the mortal realm, while believing they retain free will. Blackreach's true prisoner. The massive underground cavern wasn't built as a city, but as a prison for something far worse than Fulmer. The entire space is a containment chamber for a sleeping god, or unimaginably powerful entity. The Fulmer infestation and Dwemer ruins are surface details obscuring the true purpose. Deep beneath Blackreach's floor lies the real structure, a cage of reality-bending magic keeping something imprisoned. The glowing mushrooms aren't native flora, but manifestations of the entity's dreams leaking through containment. The dragon Vulturial isn't trapped, but serves as guardian against the prisoner awakening. If the true captive ever escapes, it would make Alduin look like a minor inconvenience. Potema's distributed resurrection. Even after players defeat her in Solitude's catacombs, Potema's spirit doesn't dissipate but fragments and scatters across Skyrim. Each fragment possesses individuals, creating sleeper agents working toward her full resurrection. The ritual was interrupted, not ended. Potema now exists as distributed consciousness, slowly gathering power through multiple unwitting hosts. Certain NPCs exhibiting unusual behavior or sudden personality shifts host Potema fragments. The Wolf Queen's ultimate plan involves merging all fragments at once, resurrecting into multiple bodies simultaneously and becoming a terrifying multi-bodied entity. The ritual's interruption didn't save Skyrim but merely delayed and transformed the threat into something harder to detect. The letter's divine author. The mysterious benefactor sending word of shout locations is actually Talos himself. He's invested in the Dragonborn's success because they represent the key to defeating the Thalmor's ultimate goal of unmaking reality. Talos, as both god and former mortal, understands stakes in ways other divines cannot. His inability to directly intervene due to the White Gold Concordat means he operates through anonymous guidance. Every letter represents Talos risking divine essence to help the Dragonborn become powerful enough to save Mundus itself. His omniscient awareness of shout locations and the Dragonborn's movements reflects his divine nature. The letters aren't from a mortal friend, but from a god desperately working within severe restrictions. Movarth's successful infiltration. The vampire lair in Morthal represents successful infiltration continuing after Movarth's death. Vampires had already converted key citizens before players arrive, creating a sleeper network activating after Movarth falls. These hidden vampires now operate more carefully, slowly converting Morthal into a vampire haven over years. The Jarl's reluctance to act stems from her secret knowledge that resistance is futile. Too many citizens are already turned. The burned house was an attempt to expose vampires that backfired when vampires controlled the investigation. Morthal's future as a vampire-controlled settlement is already sealed. The player's victory against Movarth was ultimately Pyrrhic. Heimska's divine possession. The mad priest of Talos in Whiterun isn't insane, but possessed by divine spirit. His constant preaching represents Talos himself, speaking through a mortal vessel, trying to wake Skyrim to the Thalmor threat. The reason he can preach endlessly without rest is that divine energy sustains him. He doesn't need sleep or food anymore. If killed, Talos' spirit would simply possess another vulnerable mind to continue the warning. The Thalmor's failure to silence Heimska permanently suggests they know killing him would create a martyr and spread his message faster. His seemingly mad rants contain genuine prophecy and warning that most dismiss as religious fervor. Carlia's hidden agenda. Her revenge against Mercer goes deeper than personal betrayal. Carlia discovered that Nocturnal's plan involves eventually consuming souls of all Thieves' Guild members who serve her. The blessing is actually slow soul binding, feeding the Daedric Prince. Carlia's true goal is destroying the guild from within to free members from this fate. Her alliance with the Dragonborn is manipulation. She needs someone powerful and naive enough to challenge Nocturnal. After restoring the skeleton key, Carlia disappears because she's gathering allies to wage war against the Daedric Prince herself. Every guild member who accepts Nocturnal's blessing unknowingly signs their soul away to eventual consumption. The Forsworn's voluntary transformation. Hagravens weren't always monsters, but women who voluntarily transformed to gain power. The ritual requires sacrificing humanity and beauty in exchange for magical might. Each Hagraven remembers her life as a beautiful woman, driving them to decorate lairs with looted jewelry and finery, trying to recapture lost femininity. The transformation is irreversible, and the power gained never feels worth what was lost. Their viciousness toward adventurers stems from self-hatred, killing others so they don't have to confront what they've become. Some Hagravens actively recruit new candidates, perpetuating the cycle by convincing desperate women that power justifies the horrific cost. Kodlak's trapped spirit. The Circle leader's spirit in Sovngarde possesses knowledge impossible for him to have. He mentions events occurring after his death, suggesting his ghost retained connection to the living world. Kodlak's spirit never actually reached Sovngarde, but haunts Jorvaska invisibly, watching the companions continue his legacy. His appearance in Sovngarde is a projection from his ghost in the living world, not a proper afterlife presence. This means Kodlak isn't at peace but trapped between worlds, unable to move on even after his curse is lifted. His consciousness remains earthbound, experiencing endless time while appearing to have achieved his desired rest. The Dragon Priest's resurrection. Defeating masked priests doesn't destroy them, but merely postpones resurrection. Each mask contains the priest's soul, and wearing it allows them to slowly possess the wearer. The longer someone wears a Dragon Priest mask, the more their personality erodes, replaced by the ancient priest. Eventually, the wearer becomes a new vessel for the priest's resurrection. The Dragonborn collecting all masks risks eventual possession by all 8 priests simultaneously, creating a super entity combining their collective power and knowledge. The masks call to potential hosts, influencing decisions and gradually asserting control. Anyone who wears the masks extensively may not fully realize they're no longer entirely themselves. Shalidor's imprisoned entity. The maze leading to the Archmage's quarters isn't meant to challenge mages, but imprison something. The complex magical traps don't point inward to stop intruders, but outward to prevent something from escaping. Shalidor built this as a containment system for a dangerous experiment or entity. The college's leadership doesn't remove the maze because doing so would release whatever Shalidor imprisoned. The magical creatures within aren't summons, but manifestations of the trapped entity trying to escape. The teleportation traps serve as testing mechanisms for consciousness transfer techniques, mapping how souls respond to forced translocation. Students who enter unprepared may unwittingly provide valuable data to the imprisoned entity. Neloth's ancient secret. The Telvanni wizard is far older than he admits, possibly thousands of years. His casual knowledge of events from multiple eras suggests He's been alive since the Merethic era, maintaining youth through dark magic and soul manipulation. Neloth's numerous apprentices aren't students, but victims of life-draining rituals extending his lifespan at their expense. His move to Solstheim wasn't for research, but to escape Morrowind authorities who discovered his vampire-like practices. The reason he seems unconcerned about danger is because he's survived countless extinction-level events and knows he'll outlive Skyrim's current crisis. His true age and the methods sustaining him represent secrets he guards more carefully than any magical research. The staff's containment purpose. The Staff of Magnus isn't meant to control the eye, but cage it. The Dwemer created the staff as a containment device for the eye's power, preventing its reality-warping effects from consuming Nirn. Pulling the staff from Labyrinthian weakens the containment network, allowing the eye's power to leak out. This is why magical anomalies intensify after retrieving the staff. Using the staff on the eye doesn't close it, but completes a circuit that would have allowed the Dwemer to channel its power safely. The Dwemer's disappearance might have been caused by improperly using this very system in a different era, making the current situation a repetition of ancient catastrophe. The Atronach forges awareness. Every creature summoned from the forge isn't temporary, but a permanent soul given flesh. The forge doesn't summon from oblivion, but creates new Daedric consciousness with each use. Over time, these created beings develop awareness and resentment toward their creator. The Dragonborn, who uses the forge extensively, builds an army of Daedric entities in oblivion who hate them. When the Dragonborn eventually dies, these created beings will be waiting in oblivion for revenge, making their afterlife a nightmare of their own creation. Each use of the forge births a new enemy who will remember their creator and seek retribution eternally. Riften's supernatural decay. The city's pervasive crime isn't just social decay, but result of Nocturnal's influence literally seeping through the Thieves' Guild's presence. The longer the guild operates in Riften, the more darkness spreads through citizens' hearts. Honest people slowly become corrupt without realizing it. Children born in Riften after the guild's establishment have supernatural predisposition toward thievery and deception. The city is slowly transforming into a physical extension of Nocturnal's realm, eventually becoming a shadow reflection of Evergloam on Nirn. The corruption is irreversible and self-perpetuating, guaranteeing Riften's continued moral decline regardless of political leadership changes or guild fortunes. The Dragonborn's fragmented soul. The player character can absorb dragon souls because they're actually collecting pieces of their own fragmented soul. Before the game starts, the Dragonborn's soul was shattered across multiple dragons by ancient magic. This explains instant mastery of shouts. It's not learning but remembering. Each dragon killed represents recovering another piece of personal identity. The final confrontation with Alduin isn't about saving the world, but becoming whole again. If the Dragonborn fails to absorb enough dragon souls, they remain incomplete, explaining why different playthroughs feel like different people. The variation in player choices and personality reflects which soul fragments have been recovered. The Wisp Mother's tragic origin. These ghostly entities aren't natural spirits, but transformed the remains of women who died in childbirth. Their wisps represent souls of unborn children, forever tethered to their mother's anguish. The Wisp Mother's attraction to cold environments mirrors the coldness of death during labor. Their hostility toward the living stems from jealousy and grief, attacking those who still experience life's joys they were denied. The magic transforming them is automatic. triggered by the specific trauma of dying while giving life, creating an endless cycle of birthing spectral horrors from mortal tragedy. Each wisp mother was once someone's daughter, wife, or sister, reduced to vengeful spirit by childbirth's ultimate price. Boethiah's breeding program. The Daedric Princes tournament isn't about finding the strongest champion, but breeding a bloodline of warriors through forced combat. Survivors of her trials are marked, and their descendants inherit enhanced combat instincts. Over generations, Boethiah is creating a race of super warriors bound to her service. The tournament repeats across eras, slowly infiltrating Tamriel's population with her champion's blood. Eventually, enough mortals will carry her mark that she can possess them all simultaneously, creating an army for final war against other Daedric princes and the divines. The marked bloodlines don't realize they're part of this long-term breeding experiment spanning millennia. Dragon language as reality code. Dragon language isn't communication but reality editing code. When dragons speak, they're literally rewriting existence's rules in real time. Normal conversation between dragons is actually them negotiating what reality should be at any given moment. This explains why the Thu'um has power. Speakers are hacking reality using the same code dragons use. The reason ancient Nords could use shouts but modern people cannot isn't lost knowledge but genetic degradation. Only those with dragon blood retain the ability to perceive and manipulate reality's source code, making the Dragonborn fundamentally different from regular humans on a metaphysical level. The Thalmor's brass god. The Dominion possesses a rebuilt Numidium, hidden in Alinor, preparing for final war. They've been quietly researching Dwemer technology and soul gem manipulation, planning to activate this god construct when the time is right. The White Gold Concorder was never about peace but buying time to complete their brass god. Once activated, Numidium would march across Tamriel, reducing all non-Ultima to mathematical impossibilities. The Thalmor's ultimate goal isn't domination, but existential erasure, removing all other races from reality itself. The Concordat's terms ensure the Empire remains weak, while the Dominion completes preparations for reality-warping genocide. Sovngarde's hidden prison. The Nord afterlife isn't the glorious eternity promised, but a trap. Shor doesn't rule Sovngarde, but is imprisoned there, and the honored dead are unwitting guards maintaining his prison. The mist surrounding the Hall of Valor isn't decoration, but a barrier preventing escape. Nords don't realize their religion sends them to eternal imprisonment, serving a fallen god who can no longer protect them. The warriors feast and fight, unaware they're being slowly drained of spiritual essence to fuel Shor's containment. The glorious battles and endless mead are distractions keeping them from questioning their situation. True freedom never comes because they're already trapped. The Crimson Nirnroot's warning. These unique plants in Blackreach aren't rare flora, but warnings from a previous civilization. Each plant grows from someone's grave who died trying to escape Blackreach, their terror and regret transforming into sonic vibrations. The constant ringing represents psychic screams echoing through time, warning future explorers of Blackreach's true danger. The more plants present, the more people died in that area, creating a map of ancient tragedy. Collecting them doesn't just acquire ingredients, but silences these warnings, making Blackreach more dangerous for those who follow. Each Crimson Nirnroot represents a life lost and a warning unheeded. Astrid's calculated destruction. The Dark Brotherhood leader intended to betray the organization from her first day in power. Her marriage to Arnbjorn, a werewolf, represented forming alliances outside the Brotherhood to ensure survival when she destroyed it. Astrid had grown to hate the Night Mother and Sithis, viewing the old ways as chains preventing the Brotherhood from evolving. Her final betrayal wasn't desperation, but culmination of a long-planned revolution. The Empire's destruction of the Sanctuary served her goals perfectly, allowing her to eliminate traditional members while appearing loyal to the end. She sacrificed herself to complete the transformation she always planned. The Greybeard's imprisonment. High Hrothgar isn't a monastery, but a prison, and the Greybeards aren't willing monks, but cursed individuals. Each Greybeard was once a powerful warrior who misused the Thu'um, and Jurgen Windcaller didn't teach them peace, but bound them with magical chains disguised as philosophy. Their vow of silence isn't spiritual discipline, but a curse, preventing them from speaking words that would break their bonds. Paarthurnax isn't their teacher, but their jailer, keeping them contained on the mountain. Their power remains, but they can only use it according to Paarthurnax's will, making them prisoners who believe themselves enlightened. The player never escaped. Helgen's destruction created a pocket dimension where the Dragonborn experiences a dreamlike version of Skyrim. The entire game is a near-death hallucination occurring in the few seconds before execution. The increasingly surreal nature of events, the respawning enemies, and resurrection after death make sense in this context. The various endings represent different ways the dying mind attempts to find peace. The most disturbing implication: every playthrough is another iteration of the same dying moment, the brain replaying scenarios trying to find an escape that will never come. Death is inevitable, and the fantasy provides comfort in final moments. Meridia's parasitic nature. The Daedric Prince of Life. Energy isn't benevolent but parasitic. She doesn't hate undead because they're evil, but because their energy she can't consume. Living creatures feed Meridia with life force simply by existing, making her perhaps the most powerful Daedric prince through passive collection. Her quest against vampires isn't justice, but eliminating competition for life energy. Those who serve Meridia discover too late that her blessing slowly drains their life force, aging them prematurely. Dawnbreaker doesn't destroy undead for good, but returns their energy to Meridia's realm, feeding her power. The Snow Elves' long plan. The former aren't mindlessly hostile, but executing a generations-long revenge plan against surface dwellers. Their apparent madness is disguise hiding calculated intelligence. Farmer leadership exists deep in their warrens, coordinating attacks and breeding programs to create stronger warriors. Each raid isn't random but strategic, slowly learning surface defenses and gathering resources. Within a few generations, Farmer will emerge en masse, no longer blind or primitive, revealing they've been preparing for a conquest all along. The betrayed Snow Elves remember everything and will make every surface race pay for what the Dwemer did. Huffingar's hidden cult. Solitude's elite secretly worship Molag Bal, conducting rituals in the hidden chambers beneath the city. The Blue Palace contains secret passages leading to an underground temple where nobles enact ceremonies involving domination and torture. This explains the city's political power and quick rise of certain influential families. New members are recruited through blackmail and coercion, expanding the cult's influence. The execution of Rogvir was actually a ritual sacrifice disguised as justice. The Thalmor know about the cult and use this knowledge to control Solitude's leadership, ensuring cooperation through threat of exposure. Kagrenzel's Soul Harvester. The Dwemer Ruins trap isn't meant to kill intruders, but capture souls for a machine at the bottom. The long fall allows victims time to process terror, making their souls more potent for collection. The centurion at the bottom isn't a guard, but a soul-harvesting device. Every adventurer who's fallen through that trap over millennia has fed an ancient Dwemer engine still running in the depths. The engine's purpose remains unknown, but it requires a specific number of souls to activate. It might suddenly trigger during the Dragonborn's exploration, releasing whatever the Dwemer imprisoned centuries ago. The Beast Stone's corruption. Solstime's standing stone doesn't just make animals friendly, but slowly transforms users into beasts mentally. The blessing is actually corruption, gradually replacing human thoughts with animal instincts. Those who use the stone frequently begin losing language, preferring animal sounds. Their dreams fill with hunting and primal urges. Eventually, they abandon civilization entirely, becoming feral creatures that retain human intelligence but reject human values. The stone is Hircine's tool for creating a new species of beast folk by transforming humans willing to embrace their animal nature, adding to his domain. Harkon's reality transformation. The Vampire Lord's plan to blot out the sun wasn't about feeding safely, but transforming Nirn itself. Eternal night would allow Cold Harbor to merge with the mortal plane, making all of Tamriel an extension of Molag Bal's realm. Harkon was promised godhood in this new reality, becoming a vampire god ruling over a world of eternal darkness. His family's vampirism originated from a pact where Molag Bal violated Harkon's wife, but Harkon willingly offered her, making him complicit in the evil that created his power. The prophecy wasn't prediction, but instruction manual for reality transformation. The Dawnguard's hidden curse. Isran's fanatical hatred of vampires stems from his secret knowledge that he carries dormant vampirism himself. The Dawnguard was founded not to fight vampires, but to find a cure for Isran's condition before it manifests. Every vampire killed represents hope that their blood might hold the secret to his salvation. His aggressive recruitment creates a pool of potential test subjects if his transformation becomes inevitable. The fortress's crossbow obsession isn't tactical, but represents distance. Isran fears close combat might trigger his latent vampirism through blood exposure. His crusade against vampires is actually desperate self-preservation. The Draugr's trapped awareness. These undead aren't mindless, but fully aware, trapped in decaying bodies unable to communicate. They attack intruders not from aggression, but desperate attempts to be released from endless torment. The dragon priests maintain them deliberately, using trapped consciousness as power sources for ancient magic. Each Draugr experiences centuries of awareness, unable to sleep or escape, driven mad by endless isolation. Their shouts aren't just attacks, but cries for help that accidentally harm those who might free them. Killing them is mercy, releasing souls trapped in decomposing flesh for ages. The Companion's criminal origins. The Circle's founding wasn't noble, but criminal. The original Companions were bandits who discovered the werewolf curse accidentally through Daedric artifact theft. They rebranded as heroes to hide their origins, using new powers to eliminate anyone who knew the truth. The legendary Ysgramor connection is fabricated to give legitimacy to what was essentially organized crime. Each generation of Companions maintains the lie, initiating new members into the secret that their honor is built on murder and deception. The Guild's actual purpose is controlling werewolf bloodlines to prevent competition for Hircine's favor. The Whitefile's reality warping. The legendary potion container doesn't just preserve mixtures, but grants wishes in liquid form. Whatever the holder deeply desires becomes reality when they drink from it, making it one of Tamriel's most powerful artifacts. Nurelian's obsession stems from his wish to resurrect his lost love, which the phial could grant. The shattered state was an accident, but sabotage by someone who realized its true power and wanted to prevent its use. Repairing it risks creating reality-warping potions that could reshape Skyrim according to whoever drinks from it. The Ritual Stone's Soul Exchange. This standing stone doesn't just raise dead, but trades places between life and death. Using its power temporarily swaps the user's soul into corpses, while placing corpses' souls in the user's body. The raised zombies aren't empty husks, but contain the user's fragmented consciousness, experiencing undeath firsthand. This is why the power is limited. Maintaining multiple soul divisions is exhausting. Frequent users slowly lose themselves, leaving pieces of their soul in corpses that decay, fragmenting their identity permanently. Each use risks not fully returning to one's own body. Arniel's successful ascension. The mage attempting to replicate the Dwemer's disappearance actually succeeded exactly as intended. He didn't fail and die, but achieved the Dwemer's goal of transcending mortality. Arniel exists now as distributed consciousness across Mundus, perceiving all places and times simultaneously. What players witness as his disappearance is actually ascension to a higher state of being. His shade that appears after the quest isn't a ghost, but Arniel's attempt to communicate from his omniscient state, projecting a fraction of consciousness back into normal reality to maintain contact with those who helped him. The Daedric Trials. Every Daedric Prince's quest is actually a trial to identify potential new Daedric Princes. Mortals who complete these tasks demonstrate qualities that could ascend them to Daedric status. The artifacts aren't rewards, but tools for further transformation. A mortal who gathers enough Daedric artifacts slowly absorbs their power, becoming something neither mortal nor fully Daedric. The princes compete to find and recruit these potential new members of their pantheon. The Dragonborn completing all Daedric quests risks transformation into a new prince upon death, joining the ranks of Oblivion's rulers. The Thalmor's internal traitor. Within the Dominion's highest ranks exists a traitor working to undermine their plans. This mysterious figure has been sabotaging operations subtly, ensuring the Thalmor's victories remain incomplete. They manipulate events so the Dragonborn encounters Thalmor at advantageous moments, facilitating their defeat. The traitor might be an Altmer who realizes the Thalmor's ultimate plan threatens all reality, not just human races. Their identity remains hidden even from players, but their influence explains why the supposedly unstoppable Thalmor fail at crucial moments. Someone within is fighting back. The giants' lost civilization. These seemingly primitive creatures are actually remnants of a once advanced civilization. Their space program, evidenced by launching people skyward, isn't aggression, but testing. Giants remember when their ancestors traveled between Nirn and its moons, and they're trying to reclaim that lost technology. The mammoths serve as genetic repositories, containing DNA of extinct giant subspecies. Their painted markings aren't decoration, but mathematical formulas describing orbital mechanics. Giants aren't attacking settlements, but conducting experiments toward rebuilding their spacefaring culture, trying to return to the stars their ancestors once walked. Serana's stolen memories. The vampire princess is far older than she claims, possibly one of the first vampires created directly by Molag Bal. Her sealed tomb wasn't just hiding the Elder Scroll, but imprisoning her. Serana's power frightened even Harkon, who locked her away under the guise of protection. Her gaps in memory aren't from sleep, but from having those memories magically removed. The things she forgot were so terrible that Harkon erased them to make her controllable. Serana's true personality exists beneath layers of memory manipulation, and recovering those memories might transform her into something far more dangerous than a vampire. The Lunar Forge's gate. This hidden smithy wasn't built by Nords but by Daedric worshippers serving Azura. The forge channels moonlight because it's literally pulling metal from Moonshadow, Azura's realm. Weapons crafted there contain fragments of that realm's essence, explaining their supernatural properties. The forge's true purpose is creating a gate large enough for Azra to manifest physically in Nirn. Each weapon forged opens the gate fractionally wider. Eventually, enough weapons created will allow Azura to cross over permanently, making the Lunar Forge a slow-acting summoning ritual disguised as a smithy. The college's missing students. Throughout the college, evidence suggests students disappear far more frequently than admitted. Unofficial counts show more empty rooms than officially deceased students would account for. Certain faculty members are conducting fatal experiments on students, disposing of bodies in ways leaving no evidence. The college's remote location makes investigating disappearances difficult. Parents who inquire receive false explanations about students leaving for personal reasons. This systematic murder serves magical research deemed too important to halt over moral concerns about human life. The Guldur Amulet's generational curse. This powerful artifact doesn't just combine the brothers' power, but their curse as well. Wearing it slowly drives the user toward the same fate, making them paranoid about betrayal from family. The longer someone wears it, the more they distrust loved ones, eventually repeating the brothers' tragedy. The amulet seeks to perpetuate conflict across generations, feeding on family destruction. Users experience visions of betrayal that may be precognitive or manufactured by the artifact itself. The curse might be Guldur's punishment for failing to prevent his son's conflict. The shadow mark's prison function. Thieves' Guild symbols mark more than practical information. They're actually binding a malevolent entity beneath Riften. The symbol pattern across the city creates a magical cage, preventing something ancient from rising. The Guild unknowingly maintains this prison through their shadow mark tradition. When the Guild falls into disrepair, the marks fade, weakening the cage. The entity trapped below feeds on theft and deception, which is why the Guild's prosperity coincides with increased criminal activity. The more the Guild thrives, the stronger the entity grows, while remaining trapped. The Reach's cultural preservation. The Forsworn aren't just rebels, but the last free Nords, practicing the original Nordic religion before dragon worship. Their savage ways represent authentic Nordic culture that other Nords have forgotten. The Silverblood family's control over Markarth stems from secret pacts with Daedric princes to crush this cultural preservation. The Forsworn fight not for land, but spiritual freedom, making them martyrs rather than terrorists. If they succeed, they would restore ancient Nordic practices involving blood magic and nature worship that modern Nords would find horrifying yet authentic. Kodlak's forbidden discovery. The Harbinger's quest to cure lycanthropy uncovered dangerous knowledge he couldn't share. His research revealed that Hircine's curse serves as protection against something worse. The beast blood prevents infection by a parasitic entity that would transform the companions into something far more monstrous than werewolves. Kodlak's desire for Sovngarde wasn't just spiritual yearning, but desperate hope that death might shield him from this knowledge. his fragments in Ysgramor's tomb contain memories of this discovery, and whoever retrieves them inherits the burden of knowing what Hircine's curse actually protects against. The Dwemer's mechanical imprisonment. The brass automatons aren't just machines, but contain Dwemer consciousness. The entire race didn't disappear, but transformed, merging minds with mechanical creations to achieve immortality. Each automaton potentially houses multiple Dwemer souls, creating Gestalt intelligences. Their attacks on intruders aren't mechanical programming, but desperate attempts to prevent their prison bodies from being destroyed. The Dwemer exist in endless torment, aware but unable to communicate, trapped in metal shells doing nothing but walking patrol patterns for eternity. Destroying them is mercy, but also genocide against the last Dwemer. The Greybeards' control system. The trial of the Greybeards isn't about worthiness, but breaking the Dragonborn's will. Each challenge is designed to make the hero submit to the Greybeards' authority, establishing dominance before training. The final test, withstanding Arngir's voice, measures not strength but obedience. Those who refuse to submit disappear mysteriously. The Greybeards actually serve Paarthurnax's agenda, not Skyrim's welfare. They're creating a controllable Dragonborn who will follow orders rather than an independent hero who might challenge dragon authority. The Nightingale's soul, death. Becoming a Nightingale doesn't just pledge your afterlife, but begins immediate soul drainage. Nocturnal slowly consumes the Nightingale's soul while they live, replacing it with her own essence. By death, there's nothing left of the original person to experience afterlife. The service in the Evergloam is actually non-existent, the Nightingale having been completely consumed. Karliah and Brynjolf's acceptance of this fate represents them unknowingly signing their soul's death warrants. The Dragonborn's dragon soul might be the only thing preventing complete consumption. The Winterhold conspiracy. The Great Collapse was caused by the Eye of Magnus being moved underground. The college's founders transported the artifact through Winterhold, and its reality-warping power destabilized the ground. The mages knew this would happen, but considered it acceptable sacrifice for securing the eye. Current college leadership maintains the lie about natural disasters to hide their predecessors' mass murder. The college survived because it was built specifically to house the eye safely. The rest of Winterhold was never meant to survive the relocation. The Dragon Mound's true purpose. These aren't graves but incubation chambers. Dragons don't die and get buried, but enter chrysalis-like states to regenerate from catastrophic damage. Alduin's resurrection is actually him waking them from healing sleep. The mound's construction by ancient Nords wasn't reverence, but prison construction, trying to keep dragons in healing stasis permanently. The burial priests are wardens maintaining the prisons. When Alduin wakes dragons, he's not resurrecting them, but breaking the prison system, freeing captured kin from enforced healing comas. The Blade's soul harvest. The organization seeks not just dragon extinction, but to steal the Dragonborn's power. Their ultimate goal is harvesting the player's dragon soul, transferring it into a perfect warrior they've been preparing in secret. The Blade's assistance is manipulation, keeping the Dragonborn alive only until they've absorbed enough dragon souls to make the theft worthwhile. Their hideout contains a ritual chamber designed for soul extraction. Delphine's insistence on killing Paarthurnax is less about justice and more about isolating the Dragonborn from potential allies before the betrayal. The Companions' secret infiltration. Ysgramor never established the Companions. This is propaganda covering darker truth. The organization, was founded by the very people Ysgramor fought against. Survivors who adopted his name and legacy to hide their origins. The werewolf curse represents their original nature, not something acquired later. They aren't protectors of Skyrim, but infiltrators waiting for the right moment to reveal themselves. Every harbinger knows the truth and maintains the deception, passing the secret to successors. The Dragonborn joining the companions actually joins the enemy without realizing it. The Dark Brotherhood's parasite god. Sithis isn't the Dark Brotherhood's god, but a parasite entity disguised as one. The Night Mother doesn't channel Sithis but uses his name to control the Brotherhood for her own purposes. She's a lich who discovered a way to extend existence through the Brotherhood's murders, absorbing a portion of each victim's life force. Her marriage to Sithis is fiction. The contracts aren't holy sacraments, but feeding schedules. Every assassination makes her stronger, and the Brotherhood's loyalty ensures she'll continue feeding indefinitely. The Staff's divine prison. The Staff of Magnus contains the trapped consciousness of Magnus himself, the architect who fled Mundus during creation. His essence was bound into the staff by the Dwemer, who used his knowledge to create their civilization's wonders. The staff doesn't just channel magicka, but allows Magnus to perceive the world, making it his prison and window simultaneously. Using the staff lets Magnus guide users subtly, influencing events toward his eventual freedom. The college questline actually brings Magnus closer to escaping his prison, potentially unleashing a divine intellect that might seek revenge. The Thalmor's nihilistic goal. The Dominion doesn't just seek to rule Tamriel, but to unmake reality itself, returning existence to pre-creation void. They believe mortality is a curse and that destroying Mundus will free all souls from the trap of creation. Every Thalmor act of cruelty serves this ultimate nihilism, breaking down reality's foundations through chaos and suffering. The towers they seek to destroy are load-bearing pillars of existence. When the last tower falls, reality will unravel, achieving their goal of non-existence. They see this as mercy, ending the suffering of existence itself. The Dragonborn's multiversal existence. The player character isn't one person, but a consciousness jumping between different timelines. Every reload after death is actually moving to a parallel timeline where that death didn't occur. The Dragonborn accumulates knowledge and power from each timeline, becoming a trans-dimensional entity, experiencing all possible versions of events. This explains clairvoyant spells showing different paths, prophetic dreams, and the general sense that the Dragonborn knows things they shouldn't. By game's end, the player character has lived hundreds of lives across infinite timelines, making them functionally omniscient within Skyrim's time-space. The world's true end. Alduin's prophecy was never about preventing the world's end, but recognizing it already happened. Skyrim is actually a dying dream of a world that Alduin consumed long ago. Every character, every quest, every dragon fight is memory playing out in final moments before total oblivion. The increasingly surreal nature of events represents reality breaking down. The various endings are the dream trying different scenarios before accepting finality. The Dragonborn isn't a hero saving the world, but the last glimmer of consciousness before eternal darkness. When the game ends, so does existence itself. Delphine's hidden motives. The blade doesn't truly serve the Dragonborn, but manipulates them toward her own agenda. Her insistence on killing Paarthurnax stems from ancient Blade's doctrine viewing all dragons as threats, but this masks deeper motivation. Delphine seeks to control the Dragonborn's destiny. positioning herself as the sole authority on dragon matters. By eliminating Parthenax, she removes the one being who could challenge her narrative about dragons and the Dragonborn's purpose. Her reconstruction of the Blades isn't about serving the last Dragonborn, but creating an organization she controls, using the Dragonborn's legend as legitimacy, while pulling strings from the shadows. The Augur's warning system. Before his transformation, Arniel Gain visited the Augur frequently, receiving cryptic warnings about the Eye of Magnus. The Augur tried desperately to prevent the college questline's events, but its warnings were too obscure to be understood. Every interaction with the Augur represents attempts to alter probability toward better outcomes, but mortal free will limits its ability to manipulate events directly. The Augur experiences profound frustration watching preventable catastrophes unfold because it can't communicate clearly enough to stop them. Its existence is one of cosmic helplessness, despite omniscient awareness. Brynjolf's secret debt. The charismatic thief owes his success to a pact with Nocturnal made years before meeting the player. His recruitment of the Dragonborn isn't accidental, but orchestrated by the Daedric Prince through him. Brynjolf doesn't fully realize he's been a puppet of Nocturnal for years, believing his choices are his own while being subtly guided. His exceptional luck in surviving dangerous situations stems from Nocturnal's protection of a useful tool. When he becomes a Nightingale, it merely formalizes a relationship that's existed since his youth, binding him permanently to service he's unknowingly been performing all along. The Ebony Male's poison. This Daedric artifact doesn't just poison enemies, but slowly corrupts its wearer's soul. The toxic cloud emanating from the armor gradually seeps into the wearer's essence, transforming them into something that serves Boethia's interests, even when they believe they're acting independently. Long-term wearers experience personality shifts toward cruelty and betrayal, core aspects of Boethia's sphere. The armor is a Trojan horse, granting power while secretly converting the wearer into an unwitting avatar. Those who wear it extensively may find themselves unable to remove it permanently, the armor having fused with their soul. The skeleton key's true cost. While holding the key, the Dragonborn unknowingly hemorrhages luck into the Evergloam. Every lock opened, every problem solved using the key drains a little more fortune from their future. This explains why returning it is necessary. Keeping it would eventually result in catastrophic bad luck as the accumulated debt comes due. Mercer's downfall wasn't just betrayal catching up, but the key extracting payment for years of use. The key doesn't just unlock physical barriers, but borrows against future possibilities, creating temporal debt that must eventually be repaid through suffering and misfortune. Esbern's mad knowledge. The elderly Blade's research into dragon lore revealed truths that nearly drove him insane. His paranoia about being hunted by the Thalmor masks deeper terror about what he learned. Esbern discovered that dragons aren't just creatures, but fundamental aspects of time itself given form. Killing them doesn't destroy, but displaces them temporarily. His warnings about Alduin returning carry weight because he understands the cyclical nature of dragon existence. His obsession with prophecy stems from realizing that all possible futures contain dragon dominance. Mortal victory is temporary at best. This knowledge explains his manic energy and desperate need to make the Dragonborn understand threats beyond immediate comprehension. The Guldursson brothers' curse. The three brothers killed by their father didn't truly die, but were transformed into eternal prisoners within their own corpses. Their father's wrath was so great that he bound their souls to their bodies, forcing them to experience undeath while retaining full consciousness. For thousands of years, they've been aware, unable to speak or move, except when animated by ancient magic. When players fight them, the brothers are actually trying to communicate, attempting to beg for true death that would release them from endless torment. Their attacks are desperation, not hostility. Reuniting the amulet doesn't honor them, but extends their curse through binding their essences together eternally. The Shrine of Azura's Beacon. The massive statue near Winterhold serves a purpose beyond worship. It's a lighthouse for lost souls. Azura uses the shrine to guide souls of those devoted to her toward Moonshadow after death. The star held by the statue channels this spiritual navigation, and maintaining the shrine keeps the pathway open. Daedric worship often focuses on gaining power or favor, but Azura's followers are actually ensuring their afterlife destination. The priestess Aranea serves as keeper of this beacon, her visions allowing her to maintain the magical currents that pull souls toward their promised afterlife in Azura's realm. The Forsworn's underground city. Beneath the Reach exists a hidden network of caverns where the true Forsworn leadership resides. The surface Forsworn are warriors and raiders, but below ground lives a sophisticated civilization maintaining ancient Reachman culture. This underground city predates Nordic settlement of Skyrim, and the Forsworn uprising is actually a reclamation attempt by the Reach's original inhabitants. The surface-level camps are merely outposts of a much larger population hidden from view. If players could access these depths, they discover the Forsworn aren't savages, but a displaced people fighting to reclaim their ancestral homeland from colonial occupation. Tolfdir's ageless mystery. The elderly mage has held the same position at the college for far longer than anyone realizes. References in ancient texts describe a mage matching Tolfdir's description teaching at the college hundreds of years ago. He might be using subtle time magic or life extension techniques to maintain his position indefinitely. His seemingly bumbling nature masks incredible power and knowledge accumulated over centuries. He pretends to discover things players find to avoid revealing the extent of his awareness. Tolfdir may be one of Skyrim's oldest living mages, hiding his true age and abilities behind a facade of absent-minded academic. The Ogma Infinium's Trap. Reading this book doesn't just grant knowledge, but creates a permanent connection to Hermaeus Mora. Every skill point gained represents a piece of the reader's soul traded to the Daedric Prince. Those who read the book experience increased knowledge, but slowly lose their capacity for original thought, becoming vessels for Mora's accumulated wisdom rather than independent thinkers. The book serves as a recruitment tool, identifying mortals with potential value to Mora and establishing initial hooks into their consciousness. Long after reading it, former readers experience compulsions to seek forbidden knowledge, unknowingly serving Mora's agenda of collecting secrets. The Penitus Oculatus Infiltration. The Emperor's security force has been completely infiltrated by Dark Brotherhood agents at the highest levels. Commander Maro's paranoia about assassination is justified, but he doesn't realize his own organization has been compromised. Some of his most trusted agents are actually Brotherhood members who successfully passed extensive vetting. The Emperor's death isn't a security failure, but the culmination of decades of patient infiltration. Even if the Dragonborn refuses the assassination, other Brotherhood agents within the Penitus Oculatus will eventually complete the contract. The organization, meant to protect the Emperor, is actually ensuring his death. The rueful axe's sentience. This cursed weapon contains the trapped consciousness of its creator, a mage who attempted to achieve immortality through binding his soul to a weapon. The axe whispers to its wielder, slowly driving them toward acts that serve its imprisoned creator's vengeance. Barbas sought the axe not to help Clavicus Vile, but to prevent anyone else from claiming it, knowing its true nature. The mage trapped within experiences endless frustration, perceiving the world but unable to meaningfully interact except through influencing whoever holds him. Every swing of the axe represents attempts at communication that emerge as compulsions toward violence. The Moth Priest's vision, loss. Reading Elder Scrolls doesn't just risk blindness, but creates connection to the fabric of time itself. The blindness isn't damage but transformation. The Moth Priest begins seeing not the present, but all possible timelines simultaneously. This overwhelming perception appears as blindness to others because the priest no longer focuses on immediate physical reality. Dexian's temporary assistance comes from his ability to navigate between timelines, finding information from versions of reality where the needed knowledge is more accessible. The price of this cosmic awareness is losing ability to interact normally with the mundane world. The Daedric Artifact's awareness. Each Daedric artifact contains a fragment of its prince's consciousness. The artifacts aren't just tools, but extensions of the princes themselves, perceiving through anyone who wields them. Collecting multiple artifacts means carrying multiple Daedric princes within your personal space, all competing for influence over your actions. The artifacts occasionally conflict with each other, their embedded consciousnesses fighting for dominance over the wielder's decisions. Someone carrying the full set of Daedric artifacts has invited 17 Daedric princes into their soul simultaneously. The resulting psychic pressure would be almost unbearable for anyone lacking dragon soul protection. The Periite quest's true victims, the afflicted worshippers in Bethardams, weren't infected by accident, but volunteered for Periite's experiment. They willingly accepted the plague as religious devotion, believing it would grant them special favor from the Daedric Prince of Disease. Their suffering is self-inflicted martyrdom. For a god who views their devotion with indifference, Auchendor doesn't hold them against their will, but maintains the quarantine they requested to prevent plague spread. Killing him actually denies the afflicted their chosen path of service, forcing them back into a world they sought to escape through religious suffering. Their cure is a curse from their perspective. The Windhelm serial killer's pattern. Beyond Calixto's crimes lies a pattern of murders stretching back generations. The Butcher isn't one person, but a title passed down through a family of serial killers operating in Windhelm for centuries. The Amulet of the Moon serves as the calling card linking murders across decades. Previous butchers were never caught, their crimes attributed to accidents or different perpetrators, but all used the same pattern. Calixto represents the latest in a long line of killers, possibly even groomed by a predecessor to continue the tradition. Windhelm's dark history includes far more victims than anyone realizes. Hircine's hidden test. The Daedric Prince's sphere includes the hunt, but his true interest lies in identifying mortals with hunter instincts strong enough to transcend mortality. Every werewolf serves as a test subject, evaluated for potential ascension to become one of Hircine's immortal huntsmen in the hunting grounds. Those who embrace the beast blood while retaining intelligence demonstrate the balance Hircine seeks. The cure for lycanthropy isn't mercy, but rejection. Hircine releases those who fail his test, Those who remain werewolves until death may find themselves recruited as eternal hunters, trading mortal existence for immortal service in an endless hunt. The Moth Priest's Blindfold. The ceremonial blindfold worn by Elder Scroll readers doesn't protect against blindness, but helps manage the overwhelming visions that come from reading. The cloth is enchanted to filter the flood of temporal information, allowing the priest to maintain sanity while processing multiple timeline perceptions. Without the blindfold, even preliminary glimpses into an Elder Scroll would immediately shatter a reader's mind. The gradual blindness results from accumulated exposure, overwhelming even the blindfold's protective enchantments. Each reading permanently damages the reader's ability to focus on a single timeline, eventually leaving them perceiving all times and no time simultaneously. The Sheogorath Connection. When the player meets Sheogorath during the Mind of Madness quest, they're actually meeting the hero of Kvatch from Oblivion, who mantled the Daedric Prince during the Shivering Isles expansion. His references to events from Oblivion aren't coincidence, but personal memories. This means a former mortal now holds the mantle of Daedric Prince, transformed so completely that even they might not fully remember their original identity. The implications are profound. Daedric princes can be replaced by mortals who sufficiently embody their sphere. This creates possibility that other princes have been replaced throughout history, with no one realizing the change. The Ebony Blade's betrayal requirement. The sword grows stronger specifically from murdering friends, because each betrayal feeds Mephal's sphere of plots and secrets. The blade doesn't just absorb power from death, but feeds on the emotional energy of broken trust. Each friend killed represents a secret taken to the grave. The friends trust that they were safe around you. Mephala delights in these intimate betrayals more than grand treachery. The sword whispers to wielders, encouraging them to view friends as potential sacrifices for power. Long-term owners find themselves unable to form genuine relationships, viewing everyone as either threats or opportunities for strengthening their weapon. The Greymane family's secret. This Whiterun family's strong support for the Stormcloaks masks deeper truth. They're descendants of the original Nordic settlers who first drove the Folmer underground. Ancient family records, hidden in their basement, detail atrocities committed by their ancestors against the Snow Elves. Their obsession with Nordic tradition stems from guilt-driven need to justify their ancestors' actions as necessary for Nordic survival. The Battleborns discovered this secret, explaining the intense rivalry beyond simple political disagreement. The family's hatred is personal, one family trying to expose ancestral crimes, while the other desperately maintains the heroic mythology justifying those same atrocities. The Staff of Jiggalag. This artifact obtained during Saints and Seducers represents more than a simple reward. The staff contains a fragment of order attempting to resist the curse transforming Jiggalag into Sheogorath. Wielding it grants the bearer a small measure of Jiggalag's rigid order, gradually imposing structure on chaos around them. Long-term use causes the wielder to become increasingly obsessed with organization and pattern, viewing randomness as an enemy to be conquered. The staff seeks a mortal host capable of channeling enough order to potentially resurrect Jiggalag's influence in Mundus, offering escape from the Sheogorath curse through establishing a new avatar. The Thane system's hidden cost. Becoming Thane doesn't just grant authority, but creates spiritual obligation to the hold itself. The land forms a bond with each Thane, expecting service in exchange for privilege. Those who become Thane and then neglect their hold experience gradually declining fortune as the land withdraws its favor. the follower granted as reward for thainship, isn't assigned by the Jarl, but sent by the whole spiritual essence, a guardian ensuring the Thane fulfills obligations. Multiple thainships create competing loyalties that can tear at a person's soul if the hold's interests conflict. The title carries weight beyond mere politics. The Sibyl of Dibella's Burden. The young girl chosen as Sibyl doesn't receive honor but curse disguised as blessing. Her connection to Dibella allows her to perceive all beauty and love in the world, but this awareness includes seeing beauty's corruption and love's betrayal everywhere simultaneously. The overwhelming perception of both creation and destruction of beauty across all Skyrim drives previous Sibyls to early graves. The temple priestesses don't explain this to chosen girls, maintaining the illusion of privilege while knowing each Sibyl will be consumed by the overwhelming awareness their connection brings. The position is essentially human sacrifice, dressed as religious elevation. The Reachwater Rock Secret. This ancient Nordic ruin contains more than dragon priest remains. The ritual site served as a place where ancient Nords attempted to contact forces predating the dragons. The ghost that appears during the quest represents not just one warrior, but a gestalt consciousness of all who died attempting these forbidden contacts. The dragon priest buried there was actually the last guardian preventing something from breaking through from a reality outside Mundus. By completing the quest and claiming the mask, players may have weakened seals that kept eldritch entities at bay for millennia. The Deepfolk Crossing Mystery. This small river crossing features unique architecture, unlike anything else in Skyrim. Massive stone faces carved into the cliff. These weren't created by Nords or any known civilization, but predate human settlement. The faces represent something ancient, attempting to emerge from the stone, frozen mid-manifestation by magic, long since failed. On certain nights, players report the stone faces shifting slightly, suggesting whatever is trapped within still possesses some awareness and struggles to complete its emergence. The crossing serves as a containment site for beings that dwelt in Skyrim before recorded history. The Golden Glow Estate's dark secret. Beyond the bee theft lies darker truth about this estate. The underground chambers contain evidence of experimentation combining alchemy and necromancy. Aringoth wasn't just a merchant, but a researcher attempting to create undead bees capable of producing corrupted honey with mind control properties. His bee obsession stems from belief that these insects could serve as perfect delivery system for consciousness-altering substances. The Maven connection isn't just business, but funding for potentially dangerous research. The estate may contain dormant hives of undead bees waiting to be activated for purposes unknown. The face sculptor's true nature. The mysterious person in the ragged flagon who can change appearances isn't simply a skilled plastic surgeon, but practices identity magic forbidden by most magical traditions. Each face change doesn't just alter appearance, but subtly rewrites reality's memory of who you were. Those who know you experience cognitive dissonance, reconciling their memories with your new face. Repeated use fragments your identity across multiple possibilities, making it harder to maintain consistent sense of self. The face sculptor herself has changed her face so many times, she no longer remembers her original appearance or true name. She exists in identity flux, neither fully one person nor many. The Raven Rock Mine Haunting. The mine in Solstheim isn't just experiencing regular ghost problems, but contains a portal to the soul cairn slowly opening. The ash spawn attacking the town draw power from this connection, manifesting from crystallized souls attempting to escape the cairn. Crescius Corellius's discovery of his ancestors' remains is significant because that ancestor made a deal with the ideal masters, promising the mine's workers' souls in exchange for unlimited heartstones. The deal has been slowly activating over generations, and the mine will eventually become a permanent gateway, allowing the soul cairn to bleed into Solstheim. The Redwater Den's source. The skooma operation uses water from a source contaminated by Daedric influence. The particular cave's water supply connects to underground channels running beneath a shrine to Namira. The drug dealers unknowingly serve the Daedric Prince of Decay, spreading addiction that both corrupts users and feeds Namira's power. The skooma produced here is more addictive than normal, carrying a spiritual corruption beyond mere chemical dependency. Users gradually become hollow shells, their life force drained to Namira's realm, while they believe they're simply addicted to drugs. The operation is essentially a soul farming enterprise disguised as criminal enterprise. The missing apprentices. Throughout Skyrim, numerous loading screens and conversations reference mage apprentices who vanished under mysterious circumstances. These aren't separate incidents, but part of a pattern suggesting organized kidnapping. A secret organization may be collecting talented young mages for purposes unknown. Some theorize these missing apprentices are being used in experiments, while others suggest they're being trained as soldiers for a magical war that hasn't yet manifested. The coordinated nature of the disappearances and the authorities' inability to investigate effectively points to involvement by powerful forces that don't want the truth discovered. The Potema restoration risk. Even after defeating the Wolf Queen in the catacombs, her restoration ritual wasn't completely stopped, but merely delayed. The necromancers working to resurrect her were part of a larger organization that continues operating in secret. Multiple cells across Skyrim still conduct rituals gathering power for another resurrection attempt. The defeat in Solitude forced them underground, but didn't eliminate them. Within the next century, another attempt will be made, possibly successful if her cult has learned from previous failures. Potema's threat isn't ended, but postponed, and her eventual return may be inevitable without destroying every member of her secret worship network. The Ancestor Glades cost. Drawing your own blood for the ritual doesn't just serve as offering, but permanently opens a connection between your life force and the glade. The bark used to draw blood contains parasitic properties that establish this link. After the ritual, the glade can slowly siphon vitality from you regardless of distance. This explains why moth priests age rapidly, not just from reading Elder Scrolls, but from life force being drained by the glades they've used. The yellow mountain flowers growing there feed on this stolen vitality, and their effectiveness as alchemical ingredients stems from concentrated life energy extracted from ritual participants over centuries. The throat of the world's secret. The mountain's peak isn't naturally the highest point in Skyrim, but was artificially elevated by dragon magic during the Dragon War. The dragons created this monument to their own power, literally reshaping geography to establish dominance. The Greybeards maintain their monastery there not to be closer to the sky, but to guard whatever the dragons buried beneath the mountain during its reshaping. Parthenax's presence serves dual purpose, teaching the way of the voice, while ensuring no one discovers what lies under the summit. The mountain itself may be hollow, containing draconic artifacts, or possibly an imprisoned dragon more powerful than any that still fly. The Thieves' Guild's hidden contract. Mercer's betrayal wasn't motivated just by greed, but by discovering the Guild's true purpose. Centuries ago, the original Guildmaster made a pact with Nocturnal that extends far beyond the Nightingale arrangement. Every thief initiated into the guild unknowingly signs their soul to eventual service in Evergloam. The guild exists not to provide cover for thieves, but to recruit souls for Nocturnal's afterlife realm. Mercer tried to break free by stealing the skeleton key, hoping its power could sever his soul's contract. His betrayal was actually a desperate escape attempt that failed. Every member of the guild is technically already owned by Nocturnal, whether they know it or not. The Giant's Grove Mystery. This location contains more giants than any camp in Skyrim, gathered around mammoth remains and stone configurations suggesting sacred significance. The giants aren't camping, but performing pilgrimage to a holy site. The grove marks the location where, according to giant oral tradition, their species first emerged into the world. The specific arrangement of stones and mammoth bones forms a ritualistic pattern, maintaining a blessing on all giant kind. If this site were destroyed or desecrated, the theory suggests all giants would begin to weaken and die, their species slowly fading from Skyrim. The giants' seemingly random placement actually serves as rotating guard duty, protecting their most sacred location. The Horn of Jurgen Windcaller's theft. Delphine stole the horn not just to recruit the Dragonborn, but because the Blades knew something about it that the Greybeards don't. The horn contains more than the ability to call others. It holds a trapped dragon soul. Jurgen Windcaller defeated a dragon, but rather than absorbing its soul, trapped it within the horn as proof that Thuum could triumph without requiring dragonborn nature. If blown correctly, the horn releases this ancient dragon soul, either to be absorbed or to potentially manifest as a ghost dragon bound to serve whoever freed it. The Blades hoped to use the horn themselves before realizing only the Dragonborn could safely access its true power. The Sacred Trial Selection. Kind's test of hunting. The Guardian Beasts isn't about proving skill, but identifying worthy vessels for the spirits of legendary hunters. Those who complete the trial don't just gain Kind's blessing, but become partially possessed by ancient Nordic hunters whose spirits dwell in the Guardians. The increased combat effectiveness from completing the trial stems from these spirits granting their expertise. Over time, those who complete the sacred trial experience memories that aren't their own, visions of hunts from thousands of years ago. They're becoming living repositories of Nordic hunting tradition, hosting ghosts who refuse to fully pass into Sovngarde, while legendary prey still walk Skyrim. The Necromancer's Amulet's Curse. This powerful amulet doesn't just boost necromancy, but slowly transforms the wearer into undead themselves. The health drain isn't a simple trade-off, but represents the wearer's life force being converted into necromantic energy. Long-term use results in the wearer technically dying, but continuing to function as a lich-like entity. The transformation is gradual enough that most wearers don't realize what's happening until they've crossed the threshold of death without dying. The amulet was created deliberately as a trap, offering power to necromancers while ensuring they eventually become the very thing they command. Enslaved undead serving the amulet's original creator's will. The Dragonbridge Inn's Watcher. 4 shields. Tavern in Dragonbridge harbours a secret watcher who observes all travellers passing through. This mysterious figure reports directly to someone unknown, tracking movement between Harfinger and the Reach. The inn serves as an intelligence gathering point for an organisation that hasn't revealed itself. Patrons who linger too long notice subtle questions from staff about their origins and destinations. This information is being compiled somewhere, creating detailed maps of who travels where and when. The purpose remains unclear, but the systematic surveillance suggests preparation for something requiring precise knowledge of population movements. The statue to Meridia's foundation. The massive shrine to Meridia, visible from great distances, wasn't always dedicated to her. The structure predates current era religion, originally built to honor a different entity entirely. Meridia claimed the shrine by force, displacing whatever power previously held it. The ancient foundation stones contain wards against the very life energy Meridia represents, suggesting the original builders feared life-draining entities. Her claiming of this site represents cosmic irony. A shrine built to protect against her kind now serves as her primary place of worship in Skyrim. Sensitive individuals near the statue sometimes hear whispers from beneath, possibly the bound consciousness of whatever Meridia defeated to claim this location. The lost treasure ship. Off Skyrim's northern coast, shipwrecks contain far more treasure than historical records suggest those ships carried. These vessels weren't honest merchants, but smugglers transporting wealth from illegal operations. Some theorize they were transporting dragon hoards looted from ancient burial sites, while others suggest they carried Dwemer artifacts stolen from ruins. The unusually high concentration of valuable wreckage in specific areas implies these ships were deliberately sunk, possibly by pirates who marked the locations for later retrieval. The treacherous waters prevent easy salvage, leaving fortunes sitting beneath the waves waiting for brave or foolish treasure hunters. The Blade's forgotten stronghold. Before Skyhaven Temple, the Blades maintained another stronghold in Skyrim, now lost to time. This fortress predates the Thalmor persecution and contains extensive records of dragon encounters and Thu'um research. The location was deliberately erased from all records when the Blades went into hiding. Somewhere in Skyrim's wilderness, or beneath one of its cities, lies an entire compound filled with knowledge that could change understanding of dragon history. Delphine and Esbern either don't know about this location or are deliberately withholding its existence from the Dragonborn. Finding it could reveal uncomfortable truths about the Blade's history and methods. The Hagraven Matriarch. Deep in the Reach, exists a Hagraven far older and more powerful than those players encounter. This matriarch rules over all other Hagravens and coordinates Forsworn activities from her hidden lair. She's the source of the transformation rituals that create new Hagravens, having discovered the process centuries ago. Her age and accumulated power make her nearly divine, and the Forsworn worship her as a goddess of the Reach. She rarely emerges from her sanctum, but her will shapes Forsworn strategy and goals. Defeating her would cripple the Forsworn rebellion far more effectively than eliminating any number of common warriors or Hagravens. But reaching her would require penetrating defenses that have repelled all challengers for generations. The Windhelm Palace Secret. The Palace of the Kings contains a sealed chamber that hasn't been opened in centuries. The chamber allegedly holds something left by Ysgramor himself, either a treasure or a weapon too dangerous for common use. The keys to this chamber were supposedly destroyed to prevent anyone from accessing it. However, whispers among the palace staff suggest that Ulfric discovered a way to open it and retrieved something from within. If true, this could explain his confidence in eventual victory over the Empire. What Ysgramor left behind might grant power sufficient to change Skyrim's destiny, but such ancient artifacts rarely grant power without extracting terrible prices. The college's restricted library. Beyond the Arcanium's visible collection lies a restricted section accessible only to the Archmage. This hidden library contains books and research deemed too dangerous for general study. Among these texts are notes from previous archmages detailing experiments that failed catastrophically, including the work leading to the Great Collapse. The section also contains research into Elder Scroll creation, attempts to open permanent gates to oblivion, and studies of consciousness transfer between bodies. Knowledge preserved here could advance magic tremendously, but could also repeat tragedies that destroyed previous generations of mages who delved too deeply into forbidden arts. The sleeping tree sap source. The glowing tree's sap production doesn't naturally occur, but requires regular fertilization from something beneath the ground. The tree's roots extend deep into caverns filled with an unknown substance that feeds the tree's supernatural properties. This substance might be crystallized daedric essence, ancient giant refuse, or concentrated nightmares from Vermina's realm. Whatever the source, the tree serves as a processing plant, converting raw supernatural material into consumable form. The giant camp guards this process, possibly understanding more about the tree's true nature than anyone suspects. The Forgotten Vale's original inhabitants, before snow elves retreated to the Vale, an even older civilization dwelt there. The architecture players explore isn't entirely snow elf in origin, but incorporates elements from these precursors. These beings left behind the portal technology connecting different parts of the Vale and created the initial structures that snow elves merely inhabited. Evidence of this pre-snow elf civilization has been mostly erased or integrated into snow elf architecture, but careful observation reveals inconsistencies in building style and tool marks, suggesting multiple construction periods by different hands. Who these original inhabitants were and where they went remains completely unknown. The Khajiit Caravan's intelligence network. The traveling caravans aren't just merchants, but sophisticated intelligence gatherers for elsewhere. They track political developments, military movements, and magical discoveries across Skyrim, reporting everything back to their homeland. The ban from cities inconveniences them, but actually aids their intelligence work. As outsiders constantly moving, they're above suspicion and can gather information from multiple locations. The Thalmor suspect this arrangement, but haven't proven anything definitively. The Khajiit may know more about Skyrim's true situation than any native faction, their networks extending across all holds and gathering intelligence that could prove valuable in future conflicts. The hired thug's hidden employer. Bandits who attack claiming someone put out a contract don't work for whoever they name. A shadowy organization operates throughout Skyrim, impersonating various NPCs to create conflict. These hired thugs believe they're working for legitimate contractors, but the actual employer remains hidden, using these attacks to sow chaos and distrust. The organization's goals are unclear. Perhaps they're destabilizing Skyrim for foreign invasion. Or maybe they're creating demand for mercenary services by ensuring constant conflict. The contracts are always carefully designed to create animosity between parties, while the true puppet master pulls strings unseen. The Lost Nordic Tomb. Legends speak of a tomb larger than all others combined, containing the remains of every High King of Skyrim throughout history. This sacred site was lost during one of the many wars, its location deliberately hidden to prevent desecration. Somewhere in Skyrim, possibly beneath modern cities, or hidden in unexplored wilderness, lies this mother of all Nordic tombs. The Draga within would number in the thousands, and the treasures buried with countless monarchs would constitute a fortune beyond imagination. Dragon priests would serve as mere gatekeepers to inner chambers containing the greatest of Skyrim's rulers, possibly including Isgramor himself. Finding this tomb would rewrite understanding of Nordic history while presenting challenges beyond anything currently available to adventurers. The Crimson Nirnroots network, the ringing plants in Blackreach, aren't isolated, but part of a connected consciousness spanning the entire underground. Each plant serves as a sensory organ for a larger entity distributed throughout Blackreach's caverns. This Gestalt being experiences everything occurring in its domain through these red plants. When players collect them, they're removing the entity's ability to perceive specific areas, effectively blinding it. This might explain why Blackreach feels increasingly dangerous the more Nirnroot collected. The entity realizes something is removing its sensors and responds with heightened defensive measures. The constant ringing represents the entity's thoughts, its way of communicating with itself across vast underground spaces. The Riften Ratway's deeper levels. Beneath the known Ratway levels exist even deeper passages that have been sealed for unknown reasons. These lower depths supposedly connect to the ancient canals that once supplied Riften with water before the current system. Some claim that things worse than skeevers dwell in those depths, possibly creatures from oblivion that found their way through cracks in reality. The Thieves Guild maintains wards preventing access to these deeper levels, suggesting they know what lurks below and consider it too dangerous to confront. Occasionally, strange sounds echo up from the sealed passages, raising questions about whether those wards will hold forever. The Runed Lexicon's purpose. After inscribing the Dwemer lexicon with Elder Scroll, knowledge, the Dragonborn possesses an artifact of immense value to those who understand Dwemer language. The lexicon now contains precise measurements and observations about time itself, data that could be used for temporal manipulation if properly decoded. Septimus Cygnus wanted this information for his Ascension project, but other forces might also covet it. The Sigic Order would probably try to secure it, while the Thalmor would see it as a weapon. The College of Winterhold possesses one of the most dangerous artifacts in Tamriel, and doesn't seem to realize its true significance. Some future threat may emerge seeking specifically this lexicon. The Branded Werewolves. Not all werewolves contracted the disease through combat or ritual. Some were deliberately created by Hircine's agents as part of a long-term breeding program. These werewolves carry subtle brands visible only under moonlight, marking them as Hircine's chosen vessels. The companions include several of these marked individuals, possibly even Kodlak himself before his death. The marks ensure these werewolves cannot be cured through normal means. Their condition is divine gift, not disease. Hircine uses these marked ones to spread lycanthropy strategically, building populations of werewolves in specific locations for purposes known only to the huntsman. They believe their condition is random chance when in truth, they're pawns in divine scheming. The Dwarven Sphere's original purpose. These automated guardians weren't created as security, but as exploration tools. Their ability to fold into compact spheres allowed them to travel through narrow passages and unstable terrain. The Dwemer sent thousands of these spheres into deep places seeking something specific. Many never returned, possibly still searching in caverns beneath Skyrim and Morrowind. The ones that remain in ruins continue following their last programmed orders, guarding locations because that was their most recent directive before the Dwemer vanished. If someone could reprogram these ancient machines, an army of tireless explorers could map every cavern system in Tamriel. The Sleeping Giant Inn's namesake, the inn in Riverwood, takes its name from local legend about a giant who lies sleeping beneath the ground nearby. this isn't just a story, but might be accurate. Ancient texts describe a titan far larger than modern giants who was buried alive after being defeated by early Nordic heroes. The burial site was lost over time, but Riverwood's location matches descriptions from those ancient accounts. The inn's name preserves this history, and locals occasionally report feeling tremors they attribute to the sleeping giant stirring. If this being ever woke, it would make modern giants look tiny by comparison. The question is whether sleeping means actual slumber, or if the giant was placed in magical stasis that might someday fail. The Helgen survivor's curse. Everyone who escaped Helgen alive carries a subtle mark from their proximity to Alduin's return. This mark makes them more visible to dragon perception, explaining why dragons seem to seek out and attack these survivors specifically. The mark also slowly drains life force, meaning Helgen survivors age faster than normal. The few who escaped that day and survived the subsequent dragon attacks might find themselves dying young from accelerated aging caused by exposure to Alduin's temporal powers. The mark can't be removed by conventional means. It's tied to having witnessed the World Eater's return to Mundus. Those who survive long enough might develop resistance, but most will succumb to premature death. The statue of Hircine's prison. The massive Hircine statue at a Daedric shrine isn't just art, but contains something trapped within. When the Daedric prince was bound during certain historical periods, his consciousness was imprisoned in physical objects, including this statue. The statue itself is a prison trying to hold Hircine's essence, and cracks in the stone suggest the containment is failing. The statue occasionally weeps a foul liquid, not rain or moisture, but manifestation of Hircine's essence, leaking through cracks in his prison. If the statue ever breaks completely, it would release a fragment of Hircine directly into Skyrim, creating a localized catastrophe as the unleashed divine essence corrupts the surrounding landscape into an extension of the hunting grounds. The Honningbrew Meadery's dark secret, beyond the skeevers and corporate espionage, lies darker truth about the Meadery's original founding. The building was constructed on the site of an ancient Nordic burial ground, and the basement breaches several tombs. The mead production incorporates water that flows through these desecrated graves, meaning every bottle contains essence leached from ancient corpses. This necromantic contamination grants the mead subtle properties affecting those who drink it regularly. Long-term consumers experience increased aggression and decreased empathy, traits beneficial to warriors but corrosive to peaceful society. Sabjorn's black market dealings might have been influenced by decades of consuming his own corrupted product, the dead literally poisoning his judgment through their grave water. The Crimson Nirnroot Collection's consequences. Collecting all 30 Crimson Nirnroots doesn't just complete a quest, but triggers a slow environmental change in Blackreach. The connected consciousness these plants represent begins dying without its sensory organs. Months or years after collection, Blackreach will experience ecological collapse as the entity maintaining the underground ecosystem fails. The giant mushrooms will wither, the farmer will start dying from starvation, and eventually the entire cavern complex will become a dead zone. Avrusa Serethi's reward for collecting these plants is actually payment for committing genocide against an underground biosphere. The alchemical benefits come at a cost no one calculates until it's far too late to reverse. The road's hidden shrines. Scattered along Skyrim's roads exist small shrines that most travelers ignore. These aren't dedicated to the 9 divines, but to older entities predating current religious structures. Travelers who stop to leave offerings at these shrines report increased luck on their journeys, fewer bandit encounters, and safe weather. The shrines are maintained by an unknown group who ensures they're never destroyed or forgotten. Some theorize these are remnants of the Nordic pantheon worship, while others suggest they honor nature spirits or even Daedric princes under false names. Whatever powers they invoke, something answers the offerings left at these roadside altars. The Vampire Lord's transformation mechanics. Becoming a Vampire Lord doesn't just change the body, but fractures the soul. Part of the transformed individual's soul is transferred to Cold Harbor immediately, held hostage by Molag Bal. This explains why Vampire Lords possess such immense power. They're operating with Daedric energy, replacing the pieces of soul sent to oblivion. Death as a Vampire Lord means your soul is already partially in Cold Harbor, making full transition into Molag Bal's domain inevitable. There's no escape clause, no way to avoid this afterlife even if vampirism is cured. The transformation is a one-way trip, not just for the physical body, but for the soul itself. The power gained is temporary, but the price is eternal servitude. The Blackreach War. Deep beneath Skyrim, a slow war has been waging for centuries between farmer tribes. Different farmer factions control different sections of the underground, occasionally fighting brutal battles for territory and resources. The farmer players encounter are just surface troops of much larger populations dwelling in unexplored tunnels. These wars explain why farmers sometimes seem coordinated and other times chaotic. Players are witnessing different tribes who may be enemies of each other. The massive scope of Blackreach and similar underground complexes hosts conflicts affecting thousands of former warriors, with outcomes that will eventually impact the surface world. One tribe might eventually dominate, creating a unified former nation capable of threatening surface settlements in organized fashion, rather than the current scattered raids. The Dragon Cult's remnants, the Dragon Priest players fight, aren't the only surviving members of the Dragon Cult. Living cultists still operate in secret, worshipping dragons and awaiting their return. When Alduin emerged, these hidden cultists rejoiced, believing their faith vindicated. They worked to undermine dragon fighting efforts, sabotaging defenses and assassinating dragon hunters. Some hold positions of minor authority in various holds, using their influence to hinder effective dragon response. The cult has been passing down knowledge for generations, maintaining readiness for the day their dragon gods would return. With dragons back in Skyrim, they're actively recruiting, exploiting fear and desperation to build their numbers for the day dragons fully reclaim their dominance. The last Dwemer's fate, Yagrum Bargun, the only Dwemer to survive his race's disappearance, exists in Morrowind during that game's timeline. By Skyrim's era, his fate is unknown. He was infected with Corpus, granting him immunity to disease and effective immortality, but also causing grotesque physical mutations. Either he still lives somewhere, continuing his centuries-long existence in corrupted form, or he finally succumbed to the disease or was killed by some catastrophe. If he survives, he represents the last living link to the Dwemer civilization. Finding him could unlock secrets of what happened to his people and potentially how to reverse or prevent similar disasters. His knowledge would be invaluable, but his appearance and mental state after additional centuries might make communication difficult or impossible. The Sightless Pit's true depth. This location goes far deeper than accessible areas suggest. The pit supposedly connects to other underground networks throughout Skyrim, possibly even linking to Blackreach. farmer use it as a highway between different caves and ruins, explaining how they coordinate across wide geographic areas. The spiders inhabiting upper levels serve as guardians, preventing surface dwellers from discovering deeper passages. In the absolute depths live farmer, who have never seen surface light, creatures that have adapted to total darkness over generations. These deep farmer have evolved beyond their surface cousins, developing abilities and sensory adaptations that would make them far more dangerous if they ever emerged. The missing people of Skyrim. Throughout gameplay, NPCs reference family members who have disappeared under mysterious circumstances. These aren't isolated incidents, but part of a pattern suggesting organized abduction. Someone or something is systematically taking people from across Skyrim for unknown purposes. The pattern targets specific demographics: young adults, particularly those with magical sensitivity. The abductions occur regularly enough to be statistically significant, but infrequently enough to avoid panic. Where these people go and what happens to them remains unknown, but the possibility exists that somewhere in Skyrim is a hidden facility holding hundreds of abducted individuals, possibly being used in experiments, as slaves, or for more sinister purposes. Thank you for journeying with me tonight, Cozy Nights. If this story helped you rest, consider leaving a like. It helps other weary travelers find their way to our fireside. And remember, there are many more tales waiting for you here by the fire. So don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss our next adventure. Until next time, sleep peacefully and have a cozy night. If this story helped you rest, consider leaving a like. It helps other weary travelers find their way to our fireside. And remember, there are many more tales waiting for you here by the fire. So don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss our next adventure. Until next time, sleep peacefully and have a cozy night.